then basically what happens is with your soul, when you die, your soul is still in your body. Your spirit leaves. There's a difference between a spirit and a soul. A soul is a whole other dimension that can just basically rest for eons, encased in shit, out there in the bushes or anything like that, until it's trapped in the physical body. It's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother realm. So what happens is when you die, your spirit leaves. Everything down here has a spirit. Not everything has a soul. A soul is a son. That's the difference between white people and us and animals and everything. Everything down here has a spirit. White people are spiritual because they have a spirit, but they don't have a soul. That's the difference. We just automatically think that a spirit and a soul is one and the same, or it all comes together. A soul is a son, a primordial son that existed long before the creation of this particular universe. There was prior worlds, and in order for you to have a soul, you have to exist beyond creation, or part of the original star matter or whatever, that particular terrain. Now, the mummification was, it goes like this: if your body dies, your spirit leaves and all of that, and maybe your consciousness of the previous life, but your soul remains in the body until the body is totally decayed. Then it leaves. So the Hindus understood that, and which is also Typhonian Egyptians. So the Typhonian Egyptians, after which is your pre-dynastic Kamite, travel up into Mesopotamia, so-called Babylonia. These are new names and stuff, but basically Northeast Africa, on into Indus, Kush, the Indus Valley, into India. They would take they understood to release the soul. They would cremate the body immediately. You see, then the soul is released, because they were dealing with trying to get a soul back down here for an incarnation. The way they would do it. The Egyptians, the Kamites, did another thing. If you were worthy enough and you didn't want to come back or whatever, they would mummify the body. And when they mummified the body, because the body didn't rot, the soul would not have to leave, and the soul would stay suspended in its own other dimension. So that was a way of fooling, so you don't come back in the incarnation and come back down here walking around here with a bull can in your hand somewhere on some corner. It used to be some pharaoh somewhere, and now you walk out there with some miniskirt on and stuff. You see what I'm saying? Just ignorant. So they understood that particular part as a form. Incarnation can also be a prison system, where it can take you thousands of years just to get back to incarnate where you got some sense. And in so many words, that's what's happened to our particular conscious people. So to answer your question, it would be highly unlikely. Now, the reason why I say this about the priests, on the other hand, they didn't need the mummification. They knew how to get to the other realms based on their whole spiritual apparatus, their whole spiritual training. You see what I'm saying? Plus also this, some of the higher beings knew, and this is the key, this is why you're here today, the higher beings knew that it was inevitable, that they were going to need to be back on the planet at a certain time. So it was like a time release type of spirit, whereas they would go back into incarnation and they would bounce around for eons, always popping up as famous people or spiritual people throughout history, but nevertheless waiting for this particular day that we're in right now. So that particular one would return. So in actuality, the most higher beings went through the whole process of incarnation because they understood there was a destiny.
Has two components. Matter has two personalities, a wave and a particle. But when man, or when the human brain is not looking at the wave, at matter, at its highest level, it is a waveform. But when human mind, when human thought, when human perception focuses in on that wave, it becomes a particle. So it means that the human consciousness is necessary, or is an integral part in how matter coalesces into what we call reality. Are you all with me now? Because I'm getting ready to take off, and if you can't stand the heights, just lay down and go to sleep a little bit. And I'm saying these things because when you understand how deep this is, when you understand the level that the beast is playing on, you now are at the field. You cross from him. Football, definitely, 1-to-1. And you the quarterback, you the front line, you the running back, you the pass receiver. You're everything. You're taking over the game now because you know how it's being played on you. So they must control the envelope at its present level of self-awareness. Now, how do they structure that awareness? Through your education system, through your television, through your entertainment, through church, definitely through church. They got you in light code lockdown, boy. They really got you believing that some white man came down, laid on a cross, and saved your asses. I was hearing them coming. Man, everywhere in Carolina I went, there was a church on every goddamn corner. On Sunday when I was down there on the lecture, they were driving me there. Wasn't not a near a black man or woman on the street. Everybody was in church getting their dose. Everybody was plugging in consciousness intravenously to the words of the preacher man. Sucking it in, just like you saw in the Matrix. They had my boy plugged in everywhere, feeding on him, feeding on his light. Now, in order to maintain the envelope of your awareness, in order to make you believe that this is who you are and this is all you are going to be, they have to dysfunction the blood. They have to dysfunction the blood because it is the blood that is the crystal that takes the light and refracts it. Takes it and specializes it, much like a prism does. When you look at white light, you take a prism and you put that prism, which is a crystal, up to that white light, boom, you get 7 different colors, or the perception of 7 different wave bands. That's how consciousness works. It works to diffract what is inherent within the light into what you now see as those 7 colors. Those 7 colors become your awareness. Check? All right, now, stay with me. The light, your blood crystals refract the white light into what you see as consciousness. Now, a little preliminary information. The sun is your Pez dispenser. It dispenses the codes of consciousness in vectors of light. It is the sacrificial sun. What you see as the corona is the crown of thorns. You are essentially taking in light at specific frequencies and valences, refracting them through the temple, which is the crystallization of light. You are crystal light. And I don't mean that damn crystal stuff you just straight up there and drinking. I'm talking about you are crystallized light. And you are diffracting concentrated light into the reality based upon the structure and design of the temple of God. How your blood is constituted says what level of light you can process. Ooh, I see the lights are going on in some of the brothers and sisters. I better get to my blood. Well, that's why they want your blood. That's why you see all these vampire movies coming out. He needs your blood. He needs to find out what's in your blood that's going to keep you around and him not. There you go. Well, we're going to get to DNA. Oh, Miss DNA. Now, there are principles of energy. Listen carefully. Principles of energy, formed energy, powerful principles of energy. Principles of consciousness awareness that exist to create harmony for themselves through havoc to you. Check? It's the order of things. You can't blame them for it. Just like a leopard goes and hunts and kills the lamb, it's the order of things. You have higher evolutionary beings who you believe are supposed to be so sweet and loving and because now I know light. Hey, these motherfuckers know how to get shit done now on a whole other level. They've learned to manipulate light. They've learned to condense it and change it and use it and take it and do what they want to do with it. But by that very act alone, they've created their own ceiling. Because once you start pimping off somebody, once you start using somebody, once you start working off of somebody like these preachers do, like religion does, like government does, once you start pimping people, you have to keep them at that level so that they can remain your food source. So you have higher levels, higher beings that are of the lower order that have to maintain that order through making you their vegetable garden. So your whole consciousness envelope, your whole consciousness environment is being terraformed by these higher light beings who are actually on the lower strata once you get to know them. They look all fly. I mean, you know, they look bad. Somebody see a star walking down the street. You see Wesley Snipes. Go, Wesley. Go, Wesley. You say, oh, shit, Wesley Snipes, babe. Woo, what's happening? You all up in there, stars in your eyes and shit. That's the same way we would look at them. But they ain't no different than you. They just got up to the tower by doing all kind of shit, making you believe that they're somehow different from you. But they have contained themselves by their actions. And they know that you have the ability to reach light speed. They know you can bypass this illusion that you are now functioning in. They know what your inheritance is, and they are about keeping you from getting it. Your havoc is their harmony. Check? All right. Listen carefully. Ignorance is a food source. Ignorance is a food source. Ignorance causes disturbances because of its random acts of chaos due to the lack of awareness of self. So by your very act, you create disturbances that would not have been there based on your ignorance. So by your acts of ignorance, the dynamics for their sustenance is made ready for them. And you are ignorant as hell. That's plan. Disturbances in the natural, ordered, and harmonic flow of light create peripheral or ambient frequencies from which these principles of consciousness, or these fallen lords, extract and receive their nourishment and sustenance. Let me say that again. Disturbances in the natural, ordered, and harmonic flow of light create peripheral or ambient frequencies from which these principles of consciousness extract or feed and receive their nourishment and sustenance. They are evil only in the sense that they cause us evil by our participation with them. Now, the idea behind evil is a concept based on the acculturation of behavior. What is good, we say this is good because for the mass and for the whole, we benefit. If you do a specific action, if you are participating in certain things and it creates something that's bad, and then we say, okay, that's evil. It's a consensus. Because people who are evil, some of the nicest guys, some of the nicest people, evil as hell. But when you get to know them, they're like, hey, what's up? You know, good, yeah. Evil, evil, evil. But then, if you're looking at that, and you see them channeling that energy, and you get all caught up in, oh, he's evil. Get thee behind me, Satan, and all pontification. You don't understand how evil you're becoming by putting up all that bullshit, because you just now saying, I'm going to be the sword of justice for Jesus and all this shit. And you just become just as evil as the bastard you...
With that in turn, everything's beginning to happen. Now, I understand that dramatic, or what they would call reptilians and stuff, who've had it their way for a long time and don't want to let go. With that in turn, everything's beginning to happen. Now, I understand that there are those physicals who supposedly look like us but serve what they would call the devil, or serve what they would call the negative forces, who also have been told, do not let this happen. because the gods that they worship are not the gods that we worship at Easter, and gods that we worship at Christmas, and gods that we work in, called various names again. They worship are like serpent-type creatures. They work with what they call demons, and that's too long a show to go into on that one. But now that their demons are being exorcised, just as the movies are trying to show, as we're beginning to see that there is a culture on this planet now that is very evil and should never have been on this planet in the first time, as they're being discovered, they will put anything in their way to stop you from making sense out of the pattern. And of course, now that they're doing it, they're trying to now become gods again like we were by using what they call the CERN particle accelerator, trying to create matter from nothing as though that they were the gods, trying to do everything they can to wrest away the consciousness uprising of people here. So that's what you're getting. And the biggest thing is to remember this. This entire planet is made of layers. And while we think we understand the top layer, which we call the surface, and the oceans and the land mass and all this kind of thing, we know very little about the inner layers, which is called the hollow earth or the interior earth, where many of their so-called demons or gods do dwell, as all the holy books tell you and all the movies that tell you, which are made by these people who do these studies and stuff. And this is now what we're getting. We're getting now, as we get closer to the point of acceleration, we're getting a quickening. And the quickening means that everything here must now quicken. Those things that can't quicken will be like shuttered, or will be shaken. They'll have to release what they're doing. So this is what we're seeing. That's an overview of something that's mighty big, but most people that are in your chat room, most people that listen to you, most people that understand it, know that what I'm telling is partially true. They may not get the whole picture. I don't know that I've got the whole picture, but I study it voraciously and constantly. We can see now that there's a big change happening, and that something on our surface of our planet is happening. It's being caused by those things inside our air, inside our surface, and also outside. But the point is, it's now being registered in the form of quakes, weather changes, modifications, wars and rumors of wars, everything that you can think of to let this know that this planet is in about the time of a great change.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Now, I'm not a religious person, but last night I took the time out just to go through a few scriptures last night. I was looking at the Bible, and the more and more I kept looking at that thing, the more and more I just kept saying to myself, this thing seems to be a map, because it's almost as if they wrote their end time. Does that make sense? They actually wrote and said that this is what's going to happen because we're basically going to be the ones that's going to cause it to happen.
Most of the prophecies are given in the book of Revelations. And unlike what they told you, it was not written by St. John the Revelator. It was written by Apollonius of Tyana on the island of Patmos, a metaphysician and a black man. This is what holds that whole book together, because they took out 196 other books from it, which would make it make more sense, and gave you what they now call the compilation of the Holy Bible, of course, decreed by the Vatican and still used again in Christianity and most of those who come from the Catholic Christianity concept. So once you can understand that, this is why you say there would be wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, flowers will bloom out of season, animals would not bear their young. All these things were in Revelations to let you know at a time when there would be a great change coming upon earth and everything would be revealed. That is happening. And you have, as I say, a whole force that does not want this to happen, that wants to change the force in the consciousness of this planet, and wants to definitely keep the originals asleep, dead, dumbed down, comatose, brainwashed, inoculated, vaccinated, and encrypted. And so what you're feeling is a quickening. Doesn't matter what you call the books, doesn't matter what you call religion. It's a matter of consciousness awakening to the true reality that there is a creator and that this planet is about to ascend. So whatever way you interpret it is good, it's not going to change what's going to happen.
Now, for those who, I have a lot of new people that are just now listening to your show that's never heard you speak before. Can you break down who and what the originals are? I think it's about time that there needs to be like some type of explanation about that, because there's still a lot of us.
In order to explain that, then I have to explain what is called physics and forces, but I'll make it very simplistic. A planet under a sun, and not all planets in the cosmos are under suns, but a planet under a sun operates on three potential forces. The first one is the most high. It's one that uses almost pure mind. It's called org. Org produces our words in the English language as original, organic, organism, orgasm, organic, All these kind of things means it comes in a very high vibration, and I say from the mind of Universal Prime Creator. Whether you believe in that or whatever terms you choose to do, let's say the Most High, but the creature, thing, or person or place that made this thing operates on that kind of energy. It's from the mind of the Creator. It's original. It's organic. And this is why people are trying to eat organic foods and look for the original people and look for org energy. This means it's a very high vibrational rate of energy. The next thing that a planet under the sun can exist on and the medium of is magnetism. That's when we use spirituality. That's why when a person uses magnets and stuff, the brain operates better. The pineal gland has a lot of magnesium and manganese and so in it again to form cells. This means that it's a step down from the original, but it is still a spiritual energy. Things there usually have a more spiritual nature, and they're pretty much easy enough to get along with, but it's a high vibration. The next energy, and probably the lowest energy you can still make and still exist, is electricity. That's what we've been propagating to believe in, that that's the only means of energy around. You got to have fossil fuel, and you got to turn it to a turbine and everything else. And that kind of energy is what they call electrical energy. There will be a lot of brownouts soon because that energy is failing. They not only took, and they being those who are nefarious enough to want to try to run this planet of a low vibration, they then made something lower than electricity. It's called ELF waves, ELF, extra low frequencies. And this is now what almost everything we use operates on. The cell phones, the high-tension power lines, the television sets, the high-def and plasma TVs, the microwave ovens, the radar equipment, the video games, the automobiles, the cars, the trucks, the home wiring, the circuit breaker things. They even now have this iPad that came out, an iPod, these headsets, fluorescent lights. Everything we use is to keep us low because it's the lowest vibration you can use and still stay in any way physical at all. So with that in mind, you can begin to see that the original people or the original creations operated on org. And at the beginning, it was these archangels and it was these creatures or these entities that worked in a very high plane that made this planet. But in the process of making the planet, there's also a big goof was made because they also, well, that gets into another whole story. That is pretty much the definition there. So original people were those that operated on a very high frequency. They were from the mind and the highest force of the Creator. They did not have physical bodies. They had what they call chakra centers or energy wheels, and they were operating on the plane of angels or very high vibrancies. Our planet has gone lower and lower based on, again, an interference caused by people who came from a whole different planetary system who were very jealous of what was happening here, and because of a big goof that was made, had the idea to come through a portal and could come into this planetary means. It was a big mess that was made. That is not time enough to go into that big